Wrapped up a pretrial hearing for the illegal immigrant accused of killing Georgia nursing student Laken Riley. The defendant requested a trial without a jury. The request comes just one day before the scheduled jury selection is set to begin in the high-profile and very heartbreaking case. Jonathan Seri is live for us in Atlanta now. So, Jonathan, all eyes on this as that gets ready to start on Monday.
Yeah, and now it's moved even earlier because of this motion to waive his right to a trial by jury. We're now looking at opening arguments beginning on Friday because of what happened at this pretrial hearing today. Again, Jose Ibarra waiving his right to a trial by jury. Instead, the 26-year-old murder defendant's fate will be decided by the judge after listening to arguments from attorneys and witness testimony, a move that some legal observers find a bit puzzling.
He already lost the request for a change of venue. Obviously, the judge has heard as much about this case as anybody else in that area from the media.
In a case that shocked this Georgia college town and the nation, the Venezuelan national is accused of killing 22-year-old Laken Riley, a nursing student at the Athens campus of Augusta University. Investigators say she was attacked on a running trail on the University of Georgia campus, dying from blunt force trauma to the head and asphyxiation. At a hearing back in May, Ibarra entered a not guilty plea. Authorities say he had entered the U.S. illegally, which added fuel to the border security debate nationally in the presidential election and locally in the district attorney's race. Last week, incumbent Deborah Gonzalez, a progressive Democrat, lost to an independent challenger. Harris, originally jury selection was set to begin tomorrow, but as a result of this motion to waive a jury trial, that's not going to happen. And again, the trial that was supposed to begin with opening arguments on Monday, we're now looking at starting Friday morning, Harris.
Wow, look at that. I mean, that was a big change. We appreciate the fresh reporting on this. Thank you, Jonathan.
The talent that we have and the ability we have to get this country turned around quickly. The American people are hungry for it.
The time for failed policies that have wreaked havoc on hardworking Americans for the last 4 years is over. The time for proven leadership is now.
Republican lawmakers speaking out on last week's red wave, as some are calling it. They won the White House and took over the U.S. Senate. And they are now just a few seats away from keeping control of the House. So they need 218. They're at 214 with a dozen or so races left to be called. Democrats are scrambling to make sense of their crushing loss. CNN political analyst Harry Intent with this brutal assessment.
Everywhere you look, the Democrats are in this deep, dark state because they have no heir apparent, the incumbent president's unpopular, and they hold no levers of power in Washington, most likely come January. The bottom line is this. For Democrats, there's no real light at the end of the tunnel. It's always darkest before it's pitch black.
President Biden and President-elect Trump are meeting at the White House scheduled for tomorrow. And House Speaker Mike Johnson says House Republicans are eager to meet with him as well.
I didn't intend to break this as news this morning, but since I said it, I invited President Trump is going to meet with President Biden at the White House, and so it was suggested. In fact, I think he said it first before I did, but that he wanted to come and visit with House Republicans. So we're working out the details of him gathering with us potentially tomorrow morning before he goes to the White House.
Sean Duffy, co-host of The Bottom Line and former Republican Wisconsin congressman. So first of all, Sean, I just want to set the table here because I know a lot of people say, well, we're looking at this media outlet, we're reading it here, that it's already been called. We follow the numbers of the Associated Press. Different media outlets follow different numbers of their choice. As soon as it's called for the AP, then we will call it. What are your initial thoughts, though? Because you're watching these races closely. What are Republicans thinking, yeah, we can win there?
I think the high water mark is a 5-seat majority. I think it more likely could be a 3-seat majority, which makes it interesting. You take Elise Stefanik and Tim Walz out. Republicans have 218, which is a one-seat majority. You can have no one bail from the ship. You can have no one get sick, no one stay home with their kids. So this is going to be incredibly tight. A few of these races have moved against us. So again, I don't know, but it's not going to be a bigger majority than we had in the last
Do you
Congress.
have any concerns about, as President-elect Trump pulls together his cabinet? And you just mentioned it. You've got Elise Stefanik. You've got others who perhaps will leave their positions. Some of them are in the House. Well, if you can't immediately put a Republican in there and they have to open that up to a race, what happens then?
Well, let me give you two examples. Remember Scott Brown when Ted Kennedy died? Open race in Massachusetts. Scott Brown won deep blue Massachusetts when Democrats controlled all levers of government. And then you had Jeff Sessions' seat in Ruby Red, Alabama. Democrats won that seat. When you have all levers of power and a special election, usually the party out of power wins those seats. So, again, you pull a House member with a thin majority. Again, they went very red in this election, but that doesn't mean they're going to go red in a special election. So, and again, this is about the America First agenda. You could actually endanger the agenda because you don't have a House that can pass the agenda. And a lot of these members, you talk about these seats that haven't been called. These are really close races. And so when members win, I spent too much time here, Harris, when they win by the skin of their teeth, they're afraid of their shadows. So Donald Trump wants a House to be bold, and you might have members that don't want to be that bold because they're thinking about their next election. That's the problem with such a thin majority that the administration has to think about, that Mike Johnson has to think about, and all the members that want to get this agenda done have to think through to see, can they get the agenda done with the Senate and the president?
Wow, I mean,
maybe a 1 or 2 seat majority.
You've just made some hugely important points there, because if you do win the majority, but it's with people, as you say, that are kind of looking over their shoulder because they have to make, peace in their own districts, which you want everybody to be able to do, but it may mean that they don't vote necessarily the way that Donald Trump would want them to, even though they have an R by their name. Any race in particular that you're looking at? Because, I mean, Elise Stefanik won, I think I read by like 62, 63%. So maybe a Republican could win in a challenge race. But are there any others that you're watching?
Well, so just Mike Wallace, and again, they're both friends of mine. I love them both, and I want them to have the opportunity. But again, Elise Stefanik's seat is not as liberal as the Senate seat in Massachusetts or as conservative as Alabama. That's my concern. Mike Walz's seat is far more conservative than Elise's. But again, what's happening is, again, by the way, we're a week into this race. We still don't have totals in a lot of these congressional races. It could be Thanksgiving before we know who actually controls the House. It's taking so long to count. And again, one day they're up, one day they're down. We don't. So I can't call what races I'm following, Harris. I know. Are we a third world country? I mean, this is obscene that we don't have states that can count ballots, not within 2 days, but we're looking at a week. Unbelievable.
Sean Duffy, always great to have you in focus. Thank you. Thank you for watching the Faulkner Focus. Outnumbered is after the break.